You've heard Pretty Hate Machine, but do you know what made it sound like that? Today we're digging into the synthesizers behind the album and how Reznor pushed them to the edge. Nine Inch Nails was formed in '88 in Cleveland by songwriter and producer Trent Reznor. While working at the Right Track studio, he used downtime to record his own music, playing most of the instruments himself. With the help of his manager, John Malm Jr., he shopped the demo around and ended up signing with TVT Records. Their roster included acts like KMFDM or the KLF. So it seemed like a good fit for what Reznor was doing. Pretty Hate Machine dropped in '89, at the time when radio was packed with glossy pop like Madonna, Janet Jackson or Guns N' Roses. But there was a growing hunger for something darker. Nine Inch Nails filled that space perfectly. Reznor embraced synthesizers, samplers, at a time when most rock bands wouldn't touch them. I think keyboards have been given a bad rap in rock music. The Pearl Jams and whoever, that's not what I'm about. I like keyboards. I like technology. This is who I am. The album did well. The critics loved it. It reached number 75 in the US and it eventually went triple platinum. But Reznor clashed with TVT over how the album was promoted. He later jumped ship to Interscope Records, where he had more creative freedom. Thanks to that move and backing from people like Jimmy Iovine, Nine Inch Nails and industrial music found a bigger audience. Pretty Hate Machine went on to become a classic and my favorite Nine Inch Nails record. Rolling Stone ranked it number 453 on their list of the 500 greatest album of all time, if that means anything. Pretty Hate Machine wasn't made in one place. It came together across 5 different studios in both the US and the UK. Reznor collaborated with some of his most admired producers. Flood at Synchro Sound in Boston, Keith LeBlanc at Unique Recording Studios in New York, Adrian Sherwood at Roundhouse Studios in London, and John Fryer at Blackwing Studios in London. Flood was originally meant to produce the whole album, but had to step back due to prior commitments with Depeche Mode. Around the same time, opening for Skinny Puppy helped shape the aggressive tone of the album. Reznor quickly realized that his arrangements needed to hit harder in a live setting. That need for a harder edge didn't just shape the arrangements, it shaped the sound design too. One of the main synth used on this album was the Oberheim Xpander. Reznor loved this thing, and Flood was a beast at programming it. It's not your typical warm analog sound on this record. It was pushed into darker territory, using the Xpander's features like the FM, for example. If you listen to tracks like Terrible Lie, one of my favorite tracks on the record, you'll hear that extra grit. I've had the Xpander since it came out. I've always considered it a great analog machine. It's the only thing I've ever owned that's never let me down. But I'd gotten to a point where it was cumbersome to program. I had the same 10 sounds I always thought were great in it. Then, when I worked with Flood, he breathed new life into it for me. He's absolutely a master of programming the Xpander. We really got into the FM section, doing some weird modulation things I'd never attempted, and coming up with very strange non-analog sounds. That ended up being a big part of what we did for a lot of weird modulation sounds. Terrible Lie was all Oberheim. My friend Vulture Culture, if you're into synthesizers, check out his YouTube channel, was kind enough to put together a demo of what it sounds like. Another standout synth used was the Sequential Circuits Prophet VS. This was Sequential's first fully digital synth. It introduced vector synthesis, basically a way to blend different waveforms together. And it gave the album some of its more twisted sounds. I got the VS right when Sequential quit making them. At one time I had a PPG, which I really liked, but I had to dump because I was in financial trouble. I looked at the VS as possibly a PPG replacement. There's actually a really cool story about the Prophet VS used on Pretty Hate Machine. Reznor managed to buy one at cost from the keyboard shop where he worked. The box was huge, too big for his car. So he ditched it, slid the keyboard into the backseat of his car, and took off. On the way home, he stopped by a friend's place and made a critical mistake. He left the car window down. It started raining. The Prophet got soaked before it even made it home. He dried it out the next day, but something must have shorted in the VCA. The sound started acting strange. Funny thing is, he ended up liking it this way. You can really hear it on the chorus of Kinda Want To. That shifting pitch and tone, that's the Prophet VS. The Minimoog was part of the setup too. It wasn't the easiest synth to work with. Apparently the one Reznor had was kind of finicky, so it only made it into a few parts of the album. I used the Prophet VS, an Oberheim Xpander, a little bit of Minimoog, which was down more than up in the studio. They also tried using it to process other signals by running audio through its filter, but the results were hit or miss. These days modern Moogs are way more reliable, and they still have these audio inputs for creative filtering. Moogs are a must-have. Now, if there's one instrument that defined the sound of Pretty Hate Machine, it's the Emax. Reznor owned an emulator too, but he preferred the Emax for its brighter, punchier sound. Most of the synths on the album, Minimoog, Xpander, Prophet VS, you name it, were sampled into the Emax. Drop a sample a couple of octaves and you get that crunchy lo-fi texture that became the trademark of Nine Inch Nails and Pretty Hate Machine. Reznor hated the factory sound on the Emax, but had not transferred anything from his old emulator, so he used samples from his own record collection. Almost every sound is an Emax. I like it because it has a slightly brighter sound than the emulator. And I really love its crummy clock noise when you transpose it down. That's the secret to a lot of the sounds on Pretty Hate Machine. Get a cool sound, then transpose it down 3 octaves to get that great, grainy, high-end buzz. In the studio, we have an Akai S950, which probably sound better, but it gets duller as you transpose down. He also took a lot of inspiration from hip-hop production techniques, sampling stuff from Public Enemy, Prince, even Jane's Addiction. All the drum fills on the album, samples. Here's some examples of the samples used.
the jingle bells rock.
Bow down before the one you serve.
So while Reznor had access to killer synths, what really gave Pretty Hate Machine its unique vibe and sound was how he ran them all through the Emax. It's not just about the gear, it's how you use them. Let me know which one of these synths you'd love to get your hands on, or which one you think really shaped the sound of Pretty Hate Machine. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.